welcome back to my channel. I'm Angela. I am a graphic designer and an illustrator, and today we are going to be diving into text effects in Photoshop. I'm on my desktop version of Photoshop, and that is for a specific reason because there are some effects and some things that you cannot do on the iPad yet because they haven't brought them out. So we're going to be in the desktop version so I can show you a few text effects that are pretty simple to do and they're pretty effective. So go ahead and give this video a like if you like Photoshop videos and subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate it, and let's dive in to Photoshop. This is a new artboard. We're going to make a neon text effect. So it's going to glow like a neon sign basically. And since it's the new year, we're all into goals right now. So we're gonna do hashtag goals as a neon sign. Start with the layers panel. There are lots of different panels here in Photoshop. The left panel is all your tools and your selections. And then on the right over here, you have your history, which tells you everything that you've done so far. Color swatches, brushes, character and paragraph, and stuff like that. And then right over here is your properties panel, your 3D, which, by the way, if none of you know, they're taking 3D away from Photoshop. I don't know why, but they are. And then you have the layers panel signified by 2 pages, and then you also have your channels view, which I'll show you the difference of what channels does, and also libraries. So I'm going to start with layers. I have this image that I downloaded. This is from Keith Misner, I think it's Misner. It's a really nice tabletop view, I thought. So I'm going to add a overlay to this really quickly. Go into my layers panel just by selecting it. And I do not have a mouse, I just use a trackpad, which might be a little bit more difficult, but add a color overlay because I want this to be dark. It's not going to be green. It's going to be black. Now, for some of you, you may be wondering why I'm going all the way over here for the color. So this is rich black. This is an overlay, but I want it to be darker. So instead of overlay, I'm just going to choose multiply. I'm going to bring it up to about 75%. And that is the blending mode. So this is just the basis for what we're going to create today. Let's add a new layer by just typing T on the keyboard or choosing the text tool over here on the left toolbar. I'm just going to type, oh, that's such a beautiful font. I downloaded some new fonts, by the way. Hashtag goals, because we love that. All right, this is not going to be exactly what I need for the font, but it is a beautiful font. Drag it into place here. In the properties panel on the top right toolbar, you can see everything that is available for information for the layer that you're on. And since I'm on a text layer, it's going to tell me that it's dancing script, that's bold, the color, and all of that. But I think what I want to do is I'm going to make it pink, because why not? There we go. We'll make it a hot pink. Oh, epic cursive is funny. Okay. Adoring Garland is too much. Some of these are just Google fonts that I have downloaded, so they're not going to be anything that you can't get a hold of. Oh, let's try Arial Round. Yes. There we go. All right. Arial Round lends itself to being a really nice font to do this with because everything's rounded and everything is the same weightness throughout. But you can do this with a lot of different fonts. Go into the layers panel once again. For that text layer, I'm just going to duplicate it. There are a few ways you can duplicate a layer. You can right click on the layer itself and choose duplicate layer. Press OK. You can change the name if you want, is what it was asking. Or you can take that layer and click and drag it down to this page icon, which is basically a square with a plus sign in the center of it at the bottom of the layers panel, and it duplicates the layer for you that way too. So there's different ways to make this glow. First text layer that we created, I'm gonna leave that alone for now, and I'm gonna go to the second text layer here. You may not see all the pop-up windows because for some reason my program doesn't like to showcase them all, but Just like with that duplicate layer, a big long white pop-up window does show up. You can make your selection from all of the options there. Duplicate layer will be there when you right click on a layer. We're going to make this a smart object. So if you right click on the layer, you can choose the selection convert to smart object. Now you probably won't be able to see this on screen, but it will be there. Add a layer style to it. Down here at the bottom of the layers panel, there is an icon symbolized by FX. An inner glow pops up here in this screen. I'm going to choose a different color. If you move your selector away from the color picker screen onto the canvas, you can see that it turns into an eyedropper tool. I'm going to select the base color, and then I'm going to go back over here to my color picker, and I'm going to move it to a more lighter pink so we can get some contrast. Instead of screen, I'm going to go into lighten, choose softer from the technique, and go to the center. And so we have something that kind of looks like this. We can always go back in and double tap on the layer glow option in the layers panel, change up the settings at any time that we want. I'm going to decrease the size a little bit under the elements, so that way we get more of a glow effect. There we go. Turn on that second layer that we copied. Turn this layer on to screen. Add a layer style of outer glow. And this is going to give us this very similar layer styles panel open. Here around the S, there is a glow behind it. Choose that light pink. And for the size of this, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, around like 18%. For the spread, go a little bit further. And the opacity is going to be around 50%. Because I want it to still remain pretty glowy. Change the blend mode to vivid light. Up that opacity a little bit to about 60. It looks like it's giving off a really nice glow there. One more thing, this base text layer, right click on it, convert it to a smart object, apply a drop shadow. The reason why we're going to do a drop shadow is to make it stand out a lot more. For this one, I'm going to choose that pink color again. I'm going to make it really dark. There we go. It's going to stay on multiply, because that's the drop shadow feature that we want. Change the angle of it ever so slightly to about 127. Increase the distance so that way you can see it behind. Increase the spread and the size ever so slightly. So you can copy my numbers if you like. Press OK. And we have something that looks like this. Now you're probably thinking, wait, it's not really glowing that well. Well, not yet. Take our top layer here, duplicate that layer. For this one, set it to vivid light with a 20% opacity, and I'm going to double tap on the outer glow. And I'm going to mess with the settings a little bit. I'm going to set it to vivid light. So my settings end up being a vivid light with 78% opacity, 23% noise. I wanted it to have a little noise, but if you don't want it to have noise, you can take that off. The technique is always softer underneath the elements. I pressed OK, and then this is what we end up with. There's lots of different ways that you can make this stand out even more, but I think this looks really good. That is one text effect, and then the next one is going to be with the same background. So for this next text effect, we're going to do a little bit of texturizing for this, and I just have the word texture here on that same background. Open my layers panel. Right click on the text layer, and I'm going to convert it to a smart object. I always like to do this. Go up to filter at the very top taskbar here. I'm going to go to liquify. You get a pop-up window that looks like this, and then there's plenty of options here. You can twirl clockwise, pucker, bloat, push left, freeze, use the pucker tool. Tap on each area for this to move and give it some more personality, if you will. Use the push tool also. This type of effect with liquify is really famous for the turbulent poster, if you've seen that floating around the internet. I'm gonna add a bit more texture to this. Go up to filter and go to noise. A small little pop-up window appears. The noise that I'm going to add is going to be quite significant. I'm going to put up to about 57%-ish. I'm going to do Gaussian under the distribution. Click OK. I'm going to zoom in for all of you so you can see the type of texture that it's creating here. You can even go in with your smudge tool over in the left toolbar. You rasterize your layer, smudge this all over the place. So that way it looks like it has a lot more texture. Now you can overlay this with other colors, of course. And in the layers panel, under the mode, choose color burn. And I'm just going to increase the size of this. Duplicate the layer. And instead of a color burn, choose divide. And that way it divides up the color and the contrast all the way through to the base layer. So it's going to give you this type of look. If you hold down Shift, you can select multiple layers, and then I'm going to drag them down and then duplicate those layers and put them throughout the piece here. And this type of process is also really popular for that glitch effect. You can do the same process with the noise. You can add brush strokes to it, which makes it come alive even more. Here is the finished texture piece. We're going to do one more where we're going to slice some text apart. We have a new black background here. This works the best. Place some text down. Sharp. Before we exit out, there is a color picker at the top toolbar. A lot of things in Photoshop are repeated everywhere, so you can usually find it in multiple places. There we go. And the base font that I am using here, let me go into my properties panel, is going to be Ubuntu Bold. Ubuntu is a really nice and clean font, but it has some soft curves to it, which I really like. I'm going to press Ctrl T on my keyboard just to transform this, make it bigger. Keyboard shortcuts are different. You can go to Edit, Transform, and then Scale, and it does the same thing. So there's the other way to find it. Now I'm going to choose a tool from the left toolbar. It's going to be the polygonal, I can't really say this right, polygonal lasso tool. There we go, polygonal. Make a selection here, just like so. So there's my selection. Convert this to a smart object, mask it. So I'm going to create a layer mask. I'm going to drag the layer down in the layers panel to that box with a plus sign in the middle of it, and I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to choose the layer mask on the second layer, and I'm going to invert it. There we go, and then I'm just going to move this one over. And then add another layer. Choose this rectangular marquee tool. Draw a box that encompasses all of this. Fill it with black with a paint bucket. Go into filters, blur, Gaussian blur. Pull up the radius, about 7.6 I think is good. There we go. Few simple steps to get it to look like it was cut in half. There are quite a few other text effects that we could do as well, including creating movable text. So I'm going to get rid of these. Let's create a wave. Now this one's going to be pretty simple. Go into our filter, distort, and wave. Convert this to a smart object first. Go into wave. Let's just see what randomize does. Sometimes it gives you something fun. Press OK. Whoa, that's too much. Change the color of our text here. Choose a nice wavy blue. There we go. Filter, distort, wave. Convert it to a smart object first. I do want to keep the wave pretty minimalistic. There's lots of different options in here. I'm mostly going to mess with the horizontal scale, just so that way it looks like a wave. Amplitude, keep really low at 1, and the max at about 40. Now, the wavelength is what's going to give you most of your movement. So my min is 16, my max is 94 on the settings here. I'm going to press OK, and it gives you this. Put this at the top, and I'm going to duplicate it down. There we go. So you have a nice wave effect going across the board. So we have a nice wave going on. And of course you can always add a textured background to this as well. So you can have a nice background such as this with the waves, and you can definitely add some more texture to this. You can even gradate these down if you want to. And you can change up the color of these, like if you wanted this to be white instead, you can make it white. Something that is also really fascinating to test out when you're in Photoshop is the channels section. So the channels icon is right under the layers icon. When you turn off certain color channels, like red, everything turns blue because blue is the most dominant. You can turn red back on, you can turn off green, and it showcases all the reds and blues. So you get this really quite cool effect here. Turn blue off and keep green and red on, so it shows you all the ranges of green and red, and mostly like yellows, oranges, and greens. But if you turn green and blue off, you get very monochromatic type of color waves, which I think is so cool. Of course, you can just turn all RGB back on. You can also turn off red and green, and it makes it very like pure. If you all enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. And if you want to see any more text effects from me, go ahead and leave it in the comments down below what you would like to see, or if you're just interested in learning more about text effects in Photoshop. And I will see you all in my next video. See you soon, creatives.